Well, Greg, it's not going to be long now, and stands like this one up and down Super League are going to be full once again with the greatest community of supporters in Britain, the Betfred Super League fans.
That's right, Dave. More fans in the stands last year, more eyes on the TV last year.
Yeah, what a season 2023 was. It had it all. We had golden points in semi-finals.
Golden points in Challenge Cup final.
We didn't know who was going to get relegated.
We didn't know who was going to get the League Leaders Shield until the last game.
No, absolutely not. And then, of course, in the final, Greg,
heartbreak for the French.
Absolutely. It had absolutely everything. Hopefully 2024 can live up to the same. But let's look back to 2023. And first things first, for Wakefield Trinity, it was 150 years and relegation.
And who can forget that season-defining game when Castleford managed to claw themselves back from the brink and save their Super League lives.
Last few seconds of the game. Winner. Oh, Eden! Eden gets his hat-trick right on the hooter. And the 150th of his career.
As for the Black and Whites of Hull FC, it was another year of disappointment. In fact, they limped through the season. Tony Smith, of course, has rung the changes, but at least in 2023, David Litton rose from the shadows and is expected to sparkle this year.
The Huddersfield Giants were cut down to size in a season that promised much, but delivered little.
As for the Leeds Rhinos, what must the class of yesteryear have thought of their 2023 campaign? Who would have thought this was the same team that got to the 2022 Grand Final? There was a lot of Leeds fans marching home together in tears.
May, Whitley, quick hands to Tom Johnston. Johnston in, out and away! Away goes Tom Johnston. What a try from Tom Johnston.
Salford Red Devils punched above their weight again and entertained us all once more. And who can forget that try by Tim Lafay?
To that because Salford are off again. Briley back inside. Williams in off his touchline. Briley wants it again. Briley takes it on again. Sneed and the queuing up. Lafay!
As for the Warrington Wolves, well, they thought they'd won the league by April, but a dip in form led to Darryl Powell leaving the club, and once again, it wasn't their year.
Possible now, I wonder. Run around moves, Philbin. It's the space on that right-hand side. Nicholson for Thewlis, and Warrington will score.
Powell has not moved from his coaching position since the final whistle.
For the Leopards, it was Super League redemption and a season beyond their wildest dreams.
Lachlan Lamb is a Lee legend. Crazy dreams come true. Lee Leopards, they're the new kings of the Rugby League jungle.
As for Willie Peters and Hull KR, it was oh so close at Wembley, but there's no question about it. They continue to improve season on season, and they'll be in the reckoning this year.
Sent it on its way!
St Helens went down under and conquered, but their quest for silverware domestically fell short in 2023. James Roby retired. And for those who wrote the Saints off, you were right.
They run it with Lola here, and the kick goes through, and it's picked up by Wellesby, and Wellesby's away as Wellesby got the legs. He's been chased by Senior. Senior shadows him, but gets the ball out to Makinson, looking for 5 tackles. Oh, what an offload! What a try this is going to be for Rothick!
There was a lot of questions over the Catalan Dragons, but they defied the odds, and very nearly the French revolutionised Super League, and Sam Tompkins went out with a bang.
But Tompkins is running it. Tompkins! Sam Tompkins!
But 2023 belonged to Wigan, with French Field, Miski and co lighting up Super League with exhilarating attack and brutal defence. A Rugby League dynasty is back on the throne.
Wardle away from the first, knocks to Farrell. Farrell gets the pass away to Marshall, and Marshall will get the first try of the night. Wigan Warriors is on the Super League trophy.
But that was then, and this is now.
The 2024 Betfred Super League season is here.
With a new team,
new coaches,
new players,
new hopes,
new rules.
Tuesday night just a whole lot better.
Super League Roll Weekly is back. Roll the titles. good to have you with us, fellas. We're having to think on the fly now going into this one tonight, but great to have you back, gentlemen.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
Here we go. 9 more months of joy.
Yes.
Yes. We've all been caught off guard, haven't we? We've all been caught off guard, but anyway, not to worry.
I tell you what, though, it's great to be back. It doesn't seem 5 minutes since we were last here, if I'm being perfectly honest.
No, it's gone pretty quick, hasn't it?
We're just lucky that the powers that be have put Christmas in between rugby league seasons just to give us something to look forward to in between.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more.
Probably getting trouble for that now.
Lots to get through this evening. I'm going to have to think long and hard because I've been planning to do this on someone else, and now my head's all over the place. But anyway,
You'll be fine. You'll get through it.
It could be worse. I could have renamed Bellevue the DIY Kitchen Stadium. The floodlights go out. But anyway, that's another story, innit? You know what I mean?
I think that was Sean Wayne pulling the plug when they were getting.
Do you think it was? A DIY company. Now the figurehead of Wakefield and the lights go out. You just couldn't write that script, could you? But there you go. Right, let's see if we can remember what we were actually going to go and do. Starting off, I think we were going to start off with International Sanoa. It was going to be not Samoa, Sanoa. I mean, you know, back end of last year, a 10-year plan for International Rugby League was announced, and at the second hurdle, Samoa really putting the cat amongst the pigeons. I mean, they can't pull out, can they?
I would hope not. You know, we try our best on this show not to bash rugby league because everybody else seems to do it for us. I really hope that something can be resolved and they do come. You know, Samoa are they've got some great players, and that'd be a good challenge for England.
Yeah,
if they do come over. Yeah, I'm hoping that something can get sorted. I really am.
It'll be a sterner test, won't it, than perhaps Tonga. I mean, I don't know about you, Joe, but I was a bit disappointed in the end with Tonga.
Yeah, I was. I think that we as a country probably put ourselves down a little bit. We don't realise just how good of a team we are, and you know, we're always there mixing it with the big boys. I'd certainly say that we could be the top 3 for sure. So I think for us to be real contenders and be viewed in the same breath as New Zealand and Australia, we need to be testing ourselves against much more stern opposition.
Yeah, I agree.
And Samoa would be that, wouldn't they? I mean, they would absolutely be that, wouldn't they?
Absolutely, yeah. See, the thing with Samoa is they've got some real big, heavy front running forwards, and that's something great for us because I think that's where we're also known for being quite hard hitting. We might not have the biggest blokes, but we've certainly got the passion there, and I think that's where the real test.
I think with Samoa is they've got some backs who are bigger than the forwards as well, which is going to be a test.
They do.
They've got some big lads in that side.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, they can't renege on that. I mean, a big welcome as well to our podcasters. So yeah, new for this season. You'll have seen it on the trailer that we put out yesterday. We are going to be putting this out as a podcast as well. So on a Wednesday morning, you'll be able to download Super League Raw Weekly on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and you'll be able to listen to it in your car. So if you missed the live show and you can't watch the webcast, you can watch it on the listen to it, on the go. So welcome to all our new podcasters out there that might be catching Super League Raw for the first time. It's great to have you with us, and don't forget to subscribe to all of our channels on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. Get involved is what we would say to each and every one of you.
I'll be listening tomorrow morning on the train in. Well, I would have been if there hadn't been a train strike, but certainly on Thursday I'll be listening to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
definitely.
Listen to it back. And we see where we go with that. But yeah, happy days indeed. The next thing, Super League Plus has been announced, long overdue. I mean, obviously, I was talking pretty much all through last year, wasn't I, about the NRL one and how good value for money the NRL one was. And chaps, great to see that we've now got that over here. I mean, beats the Sky subscription. Every game, other than, I believe, the ones that Sky choose, will not be streamed, is my understanding. Every other game will be on there. But for 129 quid a year, what a bargain.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was always that thought in the back of everybody's mind that we were going to charge extra for it. But is it not the first 15 rounds we get to see every game
On Sky, every
on
game
Sky,
live, yeah.
and then it
Every
goes
game
out
live.
to the Super League Plus? The
Yeah.
BBC have also picked up, which is, we haven't had a chance to talk about the BBC deal as well, which is,
Yeah.
is a step forward. It's a step forward. But I did think that Channel 4 did an absolutely fantastic job, and I do feel
Yeah.
sorry for for the guys who did such a good job over the last 2 years. But hopefully, the BBC will be able to promote it to another wider terrestrial audience, and then if they sell the product well enough, people will invest in extra games towards the end of the season. So it's up to Sky and it's up to BBC to sell Super League as a product. It is, as the sport it is. So yeah, exciting times. It'll be good to see all the games being televised.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Joel, I mean, for people who love the rugby league, it's never been any better, has it, in terms of this?
No, exactly. You think back 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, if you was to say, let's get Channel 4 involved, let's get some subscriptions in Sky and getting a BBC involved, you'd probably just laugh at someone who said that. So the fact that now that we're in these conversations and also there's almost like a bidding war for the rights to broadcast it shows that we clearly are going in some sort of right direction.
Yeah, that nail on the head there, Joel. A bidding war. People actually trying to outbid each other to show the game on TV. That can only be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking about turmoil over the winter months, it was announced, of course, that Magic Weekend goes to Elland Road. Now, Greg and I have already got the accommodation booked, so it's game on. But what I would say, look, I mean, everybody loves Newcastle, of course they do. I mean, Leeds is equally as it's a good city. Leeds is a good night out. It's more central in terms of the 62 corridor. However, it's a tired venue. What did you make of this? Joel, I'll start with you on that.
It's a big stadium and it can hold a lot of fans. It is pretty central to this M62 corridor. Though my only reservation is it's known as a football stadium. We want to really get away from football stadiums and bring it to rugby grounds. Now, there's a lot of, obviously, a lot of clubs that use football stadiums, but they equally use it for rugby as well. So it is a shame that we're having to do that, but I think for us to grow the fan base and grow the atmospheres, we have to be in these bigger stadiums, which we don't really have at this level at the moment.
Well, I mean, the only football ground, I mean, it's like your ground, though, isn't it? And Wigan, they've got a bit of a capacity. I mean, we very seldom filled a Magic Weekend, albeit the lineup on the Saturday this year, that's some lineup. Warrington obviously going up against in their own city, and of course Wigan Saints preceding that. So that's an interesting starter for 10. Greg, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm still, if the whole point of Magic Weekend was taking it to areas of the country where we could spread the gospel of rugby league. Leeds is it's a football, it's a rugby league town, it's a rugby union town, it's a cricket town.
Yeah.
I'm still of the mindset that if we're going to do something like that, we take it to somewhere where the RFL marketing can get really involved. And I've said for a long time that when we went to places like Newcastle, to Edinburgh, certain schools should be allocated a town, a rugby league town, to study and to research and to look at. And those rugby teams went there and took kits to them and gave them free tickets to watch them on the day and spread the word of rugby league to people who hadn't actually seen a game before. That never happened. But I still think if we're going to have the concept of a Magic Weekend, we need to go to places that aren't, rugby league heartland. No, I'd like to see it go to somewhere like Leicester or Nottingham or somewhere like that.
That's going right into Union territory. That's controversial.
Exactly, Union and football, but Murrayfield. Cardiff. You know, but do it right and get school kids involved and get the teams. A school, a primary school, a rugby league club adopts a primary school for the week of Super League, and the players go in there and they do, you know, whatever they do rugby league drills with them and give them free kits and give them free tickets, and for that day they support Wigan, Leeds, Warrington, Hull KR, whoever, and make a good impression. And you know, some of them may just stay with the sport.
Maybe. I mean,
thoughts on it anyway.
a lot of people in the chat are happy. Darren Saletico, hello, Darren, welcome back, my friend. Ellen Rhoda, poor choice for Darren. Steph Sale, back with us next week. Will be Steph. Less magic, more tragic is what Steph's got to say, which is typical Steph, isn't it? There he goes. Good evening as well to, as always, Dawn. Dawn's with us as always. Adam, I got your message. I will be in touch, sir. Kevin Ogden, good evening to you as well. The usual crew flying in, watching the first.
Good to see you all back.
Weekly of the new season, which is absolutely fantastic. Well done, one and all. Right, let's move it on. Let's move it on to rule changes for 2024. I'm going to start with the one that I think we're all delighted about, which was because we talked about it all last season. This stupidity of getting a 6 again in your own half. Thank God that's been abolished. That's going to be a penalty this season. I think every one of us are delighted over that, aren't we?
Yeah, I personally like to see the 6 again rule got rid of, personally.
I think it works in the attacking half, though, mate. Yeah, but in the attacking half, I think it works. I mean, if you're on the front foot, you know, the 20 metres, the 15 metres out, 10 metres out, and somebody, you think of the chaos they're trying to cause in and around the ruck, and the referee goes 6 again. It keeps the momentum going. There's not.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but I think a lot of people's arguments is that the award of 6 again has been so arbitrary.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's the problem with it. It's so arbitrary when a referee decides to wave the tackle count down, and that has been people's. I know that's been fans' main argument. I mean, people in the chat, correct me if you think I'm talking rubbish, but I think that's been the main gripe with rugby league fans, that it's arbitrary. You can get teams line on and line on and line on. The referee does nothing, and then they barely touch a player, and it's 6 again. I think that's the thing. I think it's so arbitrary that I personally, I'm getting bored of it now, and I'm glad they've moved in this direction. Don't get me wrong, because like you say, we were talking about it all last season.
Yeah,
I think eventually, I think the 6 again should be phased out.
Well, I'm disagreeing with you, because
There's
last
a surprise.
Nothing there. Yeah, I was straight away. Because last year, if you remember, my argument was exactly the rule change that they brought in your own half should be a penalty, but actually the momentum piece of, when you're on the front foot in the opposing half, I see the merits of it. So we're disagreeing. So let Joel be the sense. Go on, Joel, over to you. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so you are right for the attacking side. It's great because it kind of keeps the flow going, especially when people are trying to milk penalties as well. But I think the great thing about a penalty is that also keeps it going too. I think you look. I certainly know. I saw it last season a lot. Was a lot of players were going down with cramps. People were getting injured, and is that because they're having to constantly go and go? In rugby, there's some hard meters made, and a lot of physicality, and just that an extra few seconds of rest actually maybe creates for a better, more quality game of rugby, and that slight break that a penalty gives may allow for that, less injuries, and maybe just a bit more quality of game and less desperation as what was shown last year.
Yeah,
that is in the post.
Fair enough. Right, let's move on to the next rule change then. The 18th man, we're going to be seeing more 18th men in 2024 because just to get into the detail on this one, it was 2 players had to be taken off the field of play with HIA and not returned to the field of play in order for the 18th man to be executed. And very seldom did we see the 18th man utilised. However, this season there has been a change. It doesn't matter what they go off with. If they go off with HIA or an injury that meant they can't come back onto the field of play, once you're 2 substitutes down, you can use your 18th man. I think in terms of the spirit of the game, interchanges, keeping contests tight, I see the merits of this. Joel, start with you on this one. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's much better. It certainly stops people from giving false HAs, let's call it. We did see that happen. Let's be honest about it. So now it hopefully will bring a bit more realness and less chance of potential. Well, he went off just because he wants to bring on a fresh man. Whereas now it'll be more truthful. So we'll see when there's a real injury happen twice, which does happen a lot in rugby. We'll get a true interchange for that.
Yeah. Greg, you happy with this one?
Yeah, common sense.
Yeah.
If players are playing on, we could get those injuries in the first 10, 15 minutes of a game. That means players who would be spelled might have to do the full 80 minutes, more chance of injury. So yeah, I think that's quite a common sense approach. It's good to see.
Yeah. I think so. We then go to what we're going to go to next. The Asiata has come in. Obviously, last season's actually smiling already. So last year we had a load of sport, didn't we, over the Asiata tackle technique that led to the Wormsley and the Parsi injuries and Knowles and the Wellens piece and all the rest of it. And we were arguing perfectly legal because it was legal at the time.
Of course, it was legal. Still is legal.
And now it's changed, and now they're going to make it, endangerment, reckless endangerment.
Reckless, yeah. Well, they've not actually said, have they, that an Asitazi style tackle is reckless, but they've just said in the view of the referee, if it's a reckless tackle. So, no. We're 20 minutes in and I'm already...
You're starting. I can see that. Joe, what's your thoughts, mate,
you go.
on this one?
Well, I think it's a bit daft because I feel like these players might end up missing some games. They'll be getting match bans for something that us three would deem to be absolutely fine. I think it goes back to common sense, doesn't it?
It does.
What intent was there? What was it? What was the idea behind it all, and what was the circumstances? There's so many variables. I think it's just silly.
Yeah, you get the idea sometimes in rugby league. The one that shouts loud enough gets everything their own way, and
True.
Yeah,
and there's absolutely nothing wrong with those tackles. Yes, they resulted in injury, but it's rugby league, boys and girls. It's rugby league. And if you don't, you risk. Every time a rugby league player steps on the pitch, no matter what level, women's rugby, men's rugby, amateur, professional, you risk getting injured. That's the nature of the sport. And if we keep reducing that with rule change after rule change, pretty soon we are not going to have a sport.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me with this. And again, it's down to the interpretation of the referee. That same tackle happened to Stefan Ratchford in a grand final, but that was deemed okay. And there was no rule change. It happens last season to two Saints players, and this goes back, and I'm sorry, Saints fans, but this goes back to he who shouts loudest gets heard, I'm afraid. Come on, let's have a bit of common sense.
There's a few that agree with you in the chat. I mean, that same sentiment has actually been mentioned in the chat. He who shouts loudest has been mentioned in the chat tonight, which is quite interesting to say the least. Hello to everybody out there. Did I say? I've got one here from Darren. Darren said, where are we? Who's Asitazi? Did I say
that was me? That was me.
I got
tongue-tied. Yeah, that was me.
I was worried it was me for a minute. Reginald, disgraceful.
Mate, you know how much trouble I had saying James Roby on Saturday, so I see whatever his name is.
That's another story. Absolutely. Yeah, Alan Clegg saying this is going to open up a can of worms. Dawn Baker asking, is there a time limit to the 18 man? I don't think there is, Dawn. I haven't read that. Lads,
I'm not sure. I've not heard anything.
We'll find out. With regards to that, Joel, you said something a minute ago. I just want to pick up on in terms of players missing games. Obviously, 2025, whether it happens or not, the head height, the tackle height lowered to below the armpit. I saw this at reserve grade last year. It was diabolical in terms of the penalty fest that went on. A lot of coaches, a lot of players have come out not in favour of this. It's going to be interesting to see if this is brought in 2025. However, two things that the referees are looking at: one, the ruck speed this year. They say this every year, and it never really materialises. It's going to be interesting to see if it materialises this year. But the one I want to bring you in on, lads, is the head-high tackle, because what they're saying is that if there is a head-high tackle in 2024, it's a mandatory grade D and a 2-match ban. Now, that for me, more so than the I was going to say what you said. Then I've got Asitazi in my head. Asiata's rule that's come in.
Sorry,
this more so than that for me poses a massive risk in terms of players sitting out on the sideline. And look, we've played rugby league at a very amateurish level, and there'll be a lot of people who've done the same. But even the professionals say as well, not a single professional goes out to do a head-high tackle.
No,
it's not a part of the sport. We're talking inches, we're talking moments in games. I mean, this could prove interesting this year. What's your thoughts, mate?
I think it's a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah,
I really do. We've always had head-high tackles. They've been a part of the game, and they've rightly been penalised from the days when I started watching it many years ago. High tackles have always been penalised. It's always, it's always been part of the game that has been clamped down on. I just think when you're looking at, and I know why they've done it, and it's head injuries and leading to problems later in life, but they've not done the research, because more players are injured actually tackling than they are receiving the tackle. And if you're making it that your head and your body position is even lower, you're going to take knees, you're going to take elbows, you're going to take your own players' knees, your own players' elbows. We're playing a summer game when pitches are hard. Your head is going to hit the pitch with some force when you're tackled. Are we going to start playing on bouncy castles at some point in the future? Come on, let's have some common sense. Yes, head-high tackles should be outlawed, but tackling below the armpit, Leon Hayes is 5'2", 5'3", running through, the same with Rob Burrow.
What's that exactly? Yeah.
If Leon Hayes is running at somebody who's 6'5", that 6'5" player is going to find it awfully difficult and probably do more damage to himself to tackle below the armpit. We've got to let's stop having a knee-jerk reaction. Sympathies to those who have been affected by injuries they've received. But we need to have, again, I keep going back, and this phrase I used all last season, we need to have a common sense approach. We need to have proper research. We need to look at the proper causes of injury. What happens, in rugby union, head clashes and players are being sent off for accidental clashes.
Yeah, ridiculous. We don't want that.
What happens if two players from the same side clash heads, as we've seen in a tackle? Do they both get sent off?
Yeah. No, I mean, and what you're talking about there is a grey area. Two players of the same team, that wouldn't happen. But
it's still a head clash. If that's an opposing player, you get a red card.
But it's called friendly fire. But what you're talking about there, two players of the same team head clash, nothing had happened. But two opposing players head clash, we're probably going to see a ban. And there's a massive grey area around that. And I think as the season unfolds, we'll have to see how this goes on. Joe, very briefly, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yes, so the first thing I thought of with that was, we talked a bit about Magic, didn't we? Magic Weekend. How can we have a Magic Weekend when certain magic things happen in rugby that we can't do anymore? You think about a fullback taking a sprint on with somebody who's going down, an halfback down middle line, and he's chasing after him. He can't no longer grab him by the shoulders and by his top and drag him down for a tackle. Now he's either not going to chase him, or he's going to tap his ankle and definitely give him a chance of rolling some of there and hurting himself. What about when you've got two wingers going for it down the line? These TV signature moments. Still the sponsorships that are on shirts, there'll be sponsorships on bubble wrap. It's just absolutely stupid. We can't grow the sport and then be taking 3 steps backwards like this.
Yeah. And do you know what, Joel? That thing about ankle taps, I don't know if you're running through somebody ankle taps you, you're not ready for it, and it can actually hit in the ground when you're not prepared for that ankle tap.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It can hurt you more than a full-on bloodied three-man tackle that knocks you backwards.
It's not for any of us it's an elite level sport. I think when you see players and coaches coming out with reservations, that says a lot. But do you know what? We've got some phenomenal people who watch us every week. Let's give some shout outs. Greg Roach, I know you know him, Joel. Great one here in the chat from Greg. Rugby league is great, partly because it's gladiatorial. Can't agree with you more. It's like saying boxers can't punch to the head. And he's got a point on that. Also, Darren Saletico's come in. I take Darren's view on this. How can you start talking about things such as this when it's not mandatory at this moment in time to wear a skull cap? Now I'm not saying that skull caps prevent concussions and this, that, the other, but protective head guards. I mean, I know that NRL at the moment are advertising that we're gladiators, we don't wear helmets, we don't wear shoulder pads to the people over in America. I get that. But we don't put this stuff on our players. So it's interesting points that the people who are watching tonight are making.
I'll tell you what, probably everyone would agree.
And with that, they agree.
So one thing I've on the back of that is like, all right, so we're talking about all this these cameras being at every game. Wonderful. But how about we get more cameras in the games? Why don't we make it a part of the rule change where we do have high tackles, but when we have high tackles, it's seen, it's looked back, captain's challenges, stuff like this.
Yes.
Things like that will grow the game and make people more interested. It'll make the players want to go that extra bit and try. Not a single rugby player out there wants to go and knock someone's head off, literally.
No.
Yes, they want to bash each other about, and that's what we said, it's rugby league, but no one's there to really hurt someone badly. And these guys have learned proper wrestling techniques. They know how to take people down.
Yeah.
And you feel much more safe knowing that a guy who really knows what he's doing, these are professionals here, is going to take you down to the ground and protect you. We've seen it many times before when high tackles have happened accidentally and the players have stayed over the opposition man to protect him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what rugby league's about, and that's how it should stay.
Yeah. You go out to hurt the opposition, but you hurt them fairly, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
they are trained from, these professional rugby league players have been playing the game since they were 6, 7, 8 years old. Yeah. They know how to tackle. They're trained to tackle from being a young kid. They know where to hit. Most high tackles, and I'm sure most people in the chat will back me up on this, and you two guys will. Most high tackles are when the ball hits the ball, when the arm hits the ball and bounces up, when a player ducks into the tackle.
Yeah,
and that is where there are very few where the arm is raised and deliberately. We've seen a few. Yeah, the tackle on Lee Penny in the Broncos game was one of those, and that didn't even get a yellow card.
No.
But we see very, very few deliberately straight arm to the head, to the throat tackles in rugby league. They are mostly accidental, and we need common. I'm boring myself now. Yeah. We need common sense.
We do.
We need common sense.
So on the point of common sense, I'll say that. Okay, Gary Schofield's been out.
Well, moving on.
Gary Schofield saying only 2 men in the tackle would improve the game, which I don't see how you could police that. I think we've gone past that. He's on about reducing, again, in terms of if you want to reduce concussions, go from 10 metres to 5 metres, is what he said, which, of course, reduces the distance between. He also said 2 subs would fatigue players more, which would actually open a game up in the second half to the star players and reduce collisions. I'm just going to do a real quick one here, Joel. Yes or no to any of that?
No.
Okay, Greg? Yes or no?
No.
Right, well, we'll move on. No captain. The one thing that I found really interesting, considering that every game is going to be shown live, and Alex Sharp's going in on the chat on this, and it's exactly where we're going next. Captain's Challenge. What a missed opportunity for Captain's Challenge.
Yeah.
Major. You'll think about, like, they did it in tennis, didn't they? and it were brilliant because it kept you on edge of your seat all the time.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, the rugby players are the ones that know best because they're the ones that are there in front.
Exactly. In cricket, the cricket
We're not
teams.
talking cricket.
No,
we don't talk cricket on Rugby League, Super League. What's going on? Cricket.
Listen, David, you may learn something.
Go on.
In cricket, you can appeal against the decision. Like you say, in tennis, you can appeal against the decision. Captain's challenge in Australia works brilliantly, as does the bunker. And we need to bring in the bunker.
Greg, if I may, the only appeal in cricket is I would appeal to people not to even bother going and watching it, mate.
It's a great game. It's a great game.
Honestly, you've got people turning off in droves now. Cricket.
They're not
League Raw.
Cricket is a wonderful game.
Good Lord.
In fact,
shocking.
I'll see you all in April for Cricket Raw.
Mate, and you'll be on your own. You'll be on your own, mate.
Well, usually I'm, mate, so nothing new there.
What I would say, NRL, just want to quickly touch on this and then we'll move on from new rules. Interesting in the NRL, do you know what? I quite like this one. Rowan Smith would certainly like this one. The NRL this year have changed the rule. Short kickoffs. So to reward people for short kickoffs. Now, if the worst it can be is a play the ball where the ball left the field of play. No longer will the team get a penalty, the defensive team get a penalty, which of course will probably mean that we'll probably see a lot more short kickoffs and short dropouts in the NRL this year as a consequence of that, which of course, Rowan Smith, I mean, we spoke about this last year. Rowan Smith started the season, I remember at Warrington with short kickoffs.
Yeah.
Didn't really work out. But of course, when you give a penalty where you're probably defending your own 30 at that point when you could be defending from the opposition's 10. So this is an interesting one. I'm going to be interested to see how this one pans out in the NRL this year. It's a real interesting one they've put forward. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it's one that we have to watch. I've not really got an opinion on it, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea yet. I think we need to see how it pans out and see what happens.
Yeah.
Who knows? It might be a great thing that revolutionizes the sport again. I think we'll have to see though.
No, absolutely. Joel, what's your view on it?
I think it's a bit odd, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
I just don't know. Unless you are literally a point off at the end and you need the ball back, fine. But that just seems a bit strange, really. It might work out really well. It remains to be seen. I'm glad they're trying it, not us.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Right. Okay. Well, look, we've gone through a few bits there. Obviously, rule changes. We were asked to go through rule changes. That's pretty much where it is. As always, we'll see where we go with this as the season goes on. What we're going to do now, though, if I may, you'll have seen this on the trailer that we put out yesterday for the all new Super League Raw for this season. Of course, we'll try and sort out the live stream across platforms for next week. But one of the things that is coming in this year is in conversation with. You'll have seen we launched our podcast with the Dan Sargentson one, and this Wednesday, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. On YouTube. And this is exclusive to YouTube and it's exclusive to the podcast. You will not get In Conversation on Facebook. So if you want to see the In Conversation series, it's vitally important. You head over to YouTube. You subscribe to our YouTube channel and you go on to Apple or Spotify and subscribe to the Super League Raw podcast. And there you will get the In Conversation piece. So we're going to quickly go off camera now. And I'm going to give you a little teaser because tomorrow night at 8 p.m, it's the turn of Mr. Joe Philbin. And here's a little taster of Joe's In Conversation. Here he comes.
Forwards point of view, it's a dream come true because you talk about before who were the childhood heroes. Well, as a teenager, maybe not a child, but Sam was that trailblazer of a forward who went over to Australia as a young guy, and I think you talk about leaving his comfort zone. I think everything he's ever done in his career has been about getting out of his comfort zone. He left South when he probably could have stayed there on a load of money for the rest of his career, and went now I want to go and crack rugby union now. Played a World Cup for England Rugby Union, probably got scapegoated if you look at what happened, and then kind of makes the comeback, and then like you say, again, could have stayed cushed here on a lot of money in Australia, but no, I want to be a head coach. I want to show what I can do, and has come over here, brought his family over here, young family. So yeah, look, I'm really excited to play under him. I feel like just in the pre-season alone, I talk about what needed to change in our team is probably that resilience and that belief, and who better to bring a bit of resilience to the team than Sam Burgess, who won a grand final with a broken cheekbone for the full game. So we did an army camp with Amp.
So there you go. There's a little taster of what's coming tomorrow night on 8 p.m. on YouTube and also on the podcast. Joe Phil been talking for a good hour with me about his career, his testimonial this season, brand new series for this year. We've got other ones in the melting pot as we speak. We will announce them once they're over the line. But the In Conversation series, new for 2024. Gentlemen, where will you be tomorrow night at 8 p.m?
Watching In Conversation.
Indeed. The only place to be. Well done, Greg. It's like we rehearsed that and we didn't.
Almost like you asked
never
me to say that, wasn't it, mate?
As we never do. But there you go. Right. Okay. So all good sport there. The In Conversation series comes in for this year. Right. We're going to now look at the first 4 teams. We do this every season. We take a look at 4 sides in each show on the lead up to the new season. And we're gonna go in reverse order. We're going to start with the London Broncos, and I think one of the things that was interesting this week was that both Mike Eccles and the owner of the London Broncos, David Hughes, first thing they've done is they've asked for dispensation. If they don't finish bottom of Super League this year, they want to stay in Super League in 2025. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's a fair request.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Relegation and promotion and relegation is on merit, as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure Joel will agree that if a team finishes bottom, then if we have a system of relegation and promotion, that team that finishes bottom is relegated, and I agree with him 100%.
Yeah, Joel.
Yeah, well, obviously they're going to have to build on a lot of things, and if this grading criteria turns out eventually to be as it is in the NRL, they're going to want to stay in. So it's all on them to build that criteria and make sure that they stay in there. I think because they weren't really gunning for Super League per se. They weren't the ones to necessarily go up, but they've taken it on the chin and they're taking it in the stride. And I think they're gonna plan to build for the future in Super League, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, Steph's in the chat saying he thinks that they're part-time. Mike Eccles actually has come out and said, no, they're not. There's only a handful of the London Broncos squad that are not full-time this season. That's been announced by London. And another good argument that Eccles has said, and I just want to show you this graphic, gentlemen. So we'll just put this up whilst we're having this chat. One of the things that Eccles said, and I completely and utterly agree with him, that since Super League began, this season it will be their 24th appearance in Super League. Doncaster's never been in Super League. Batley's never been in Super League. Barrow's never been in Super League. So you start looking at who has and who hasn't represented themselves in Super League. There's a few teams there above them in the criteria that have got a higher ranking, which again, I've got sympathy for that argument. And the other argument that he talked about, which I thought was quite interesting, was the fact that in their, again, I'm not going into the detail of their grading, but I will take them at face value. They've reported this, that obviously there is certain grading for where you sit in terms of, the criteria of where you sit in your local community. So, for example, the Wiggins and the Lees, they're in competition for market share in their area. And they didn't score maximum points, even though they're the only side in London. And they were like, how can that be? How can we not score maximum points for catchment area when we're the only club in London? It's an interesting argument.
Yeah. Are London Scholars still going?
Scholars are still there, but they've been in and out, haven't they? They have
I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, and rugby league is a sport that's played in a lot of London schools as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I it's all very well doing a grading system, if we'd have had a grading system before Super League, it would be interesting to see which of the top sides would have actually got top points.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I think, again, I think as with all sports, if you're going to have a relegation and promotion system, it has to be down to what happens on the pitch, not what goes on around what goes on the pitch.
Yeah.
That there are teams in other sports that have won leagues, have won cups with absolutely dreadful facilities.
Yeah.
Let's stop doing these things with rugby league where, I don't know, we try to make things so much more difficult for ourselves. I did have and I said this last season, I did have a fear that IMG were the emperor's new clothes, and I do still think that. I can't see what they're bringing to the game at this moment in time. They may well do something this season that completely surprises me, makes me change my mind. But at this moment in time,
yeah. Well, if you remember,
apart from grading the clubs and saying, you've got great facilities, you've got average facilities, I can't see what else they're bringing to the game.
Mate, but if you remember, mate, they're starting from this season. That was always
So this is what I mean. I'm hoping.
So we're starting to see it now. They are starting to, from a marketing perspective and all the rest, you're starting to see things move. Super League Plus has come in. There's the
yes.
There's the new Fantasy League that's coming in. So there's a lot of different things that are coming in. We've seen the new branding as well around Super League. So we're now starting to see the emergence of IMG.
This is what I'm saying. I'm hoping this season they make me change my mind.
Yeah,
and I hope they do. I really, really hope they make me sit up and think, right, okay, yeah, you were right. Yeah. But at this moment in time, I'm still thinking Emperor's new clothes.
Joel, your thoughts, mate? What London? I mean, I'll just lead you into this as well if I can, Joel. Feel for London. Should we be going to 14 teams from 2025? That'd basically get rid of a lot of this nonsense for me if we got rid of the loop fixture and went to 14.
Well, I was just studying that graph there. I don't know if that grading system was to be done today, the numbers may change quite a bit. But if you was to, I've always been a fan of increasing the league. When you increase the league, you increase the interest. And then, so say you go to 14. You'd have Toulouse coming up, Wakefield will be back up, Bradford will be back up. And when you look at it now, there's certain teams that you'd imagine, people like Fev, Widnes, especially York, Newcastle. These guys are going to be really wanting to get into a top tier because they know that there's more opportunities. When you've got 12 teams, it's quite a volatile league. You're always going to have, the usuals going up and down. Whereas if you've got a team, a league of 14 up to 20, eventually, then there's a bigger scope for it, isn't there? You could have a 3 up, 3 down, then.
Yeah.
The only way to expand this sport is to increase the amount of teams in the top division.
I agree.
You have to.
We're a bit like the Scottish Premiership at the minute, where Celtic and Rangers play each other 4 times a season. Warrington and Wigan played each other 6 times a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah.
You can't have that. Games have to be special occasions. You cannot dilute games like Saints and Wigan. You cannot dilute games like Wigan Warrington or Warrington Widnes. There have to be occasions. And I'm agreeing with you guys that we need to expand the league.
For us to do that as well, could we talked about the Magic Weekend being at Leeds. Why can't it be over in Ireland?
Yeah. Why not?
Is that because you want to put on your leprechaun suit, mate? Is that what that is?
Absolutely. I want some Guinness. If I'm being totally honest.
Nice. Oh, I know where you can get a decent pint of Guinness, mate. I know where you can get a very, very good pint of Guinness.
Right. Let's get into
me after the show.
Let's get into this then. So obviously London have come up. They're on hiding to nothing to some degree. In terms of what they're at. And as you can see, we've changed the graph for this year. We've tried to change it a little bit to make it a little bit easier. So obviously, for those people who don't watch Championship Rugby League, let's look at the retained first and foremost. There's a few good. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some names in here that you're aware of. You know, the 8 and 10 there in the prop forwards. You'll know them from their
Yeah.
Super League days. Don't get confused. Matt Davies is not Matt Davies of Lee Leopards, and Jack Hughes is not Jack Hughes of Lee Leopards. They're completely different players. But I'm gonna tell you right now. There's a couple of players that have been retained at London that are well worth a note tonight on this show. The first one is their number 1, Alex Walker. Alex Walker, real solid fullback. He had a great season in the Championship last year. He's one to watch. Of course, Dean Purata was the Championship Player of the Season in 2023. So it'll be interesting to see how Dean Purata goes in this season. The Castleford 14-all pre-season game saw a lot of Castleford fans after the game putting big raps on Emmanuel Wayne, the number 18. Said he was a bit of a unit, real solid unit. You know, he's and it's this. You know, we'll be talking about this a lot over the preview shows. A lot of Papua New Guinea players have found their way into Super League this year. Emmanuel Wayne represented the Papua New Guinea Hunters, and like I say, he's one that you really need to keep an eye on. Those for me, Ollie Leyland as well, but unfortunately for Ollie, I don't think he's going to get much of a look in early doors due to who they brought in the halfback positions, which we'll get to in a minute. As you'll see there in terms of who they've lost, there's some names there that'll jump out to people who've watched Super League for a while. Corey Norman, Dean Ware, they've allowed to leave. And a lot of these players that they brought in are unknown quantities, and they are. So, I mean, in terms of who we're looking at here, where am I going to start? Obviously, you know Reece Kennedy from Hull KR days. Sadiq Adibayi, you'll remember him. I think he represented Wakey, I think it was. So that's a name that people will know. But the one that they brought in, well, they brought in the two halfbacks of Jack Campagnolo.
Camagnolo.
Yeah, if you're going to do it with the accent, absolutely. South Logan Magpies. And what was interesting about him is that Mike Eccles has said about him that he sees this and talk about put pressure on the lad early doors. He said that he sees this very much in the same light as Lachlan Lamb and Brad Schneider. Now that's putting pressure on the lad, but you know he has made no bones about it. He wants to go back to the NRL.
Yeah.
And he's compared and contrasted them to those two players. The other player, James Meadows, number 7, he's been brought in from the Batley Bulldogs. And again, for those of you who kept an eye on the Championship last year, James Meadows was very strong for Batley last year. You know, played really, really well. You know, this is a 24-year-old, got a career in front of him. He's played 102 career appearances. He scored 33 tries, 61 goals. And I think the interesting thing about these players as well, a lot of goal kickers in who they brought in. You know, Josh Raw, you know, he's kicked 60 goals for 29, 60 goals in his career. James Meadows kicks goals as well. Trying to think there's another one as well they brought in that can kick. I think
Camagnolo can kick as well.
Yeah, and I think he can. So they brought a lot in, but I mean, I've tried to summarise a few of these players for you. Players that, look, trust me, you know, there's a few players in this squad that really will probably surprise many. I mean, whether they shine with what's around them or not, but they've got some real quality about them. And what we mustn't forget here is that whilst London may not be in the Super League in 2025, these players are in the shop window for 2025.
Yeah.
You know, if some of these guys shine, they will be Super League players in 2025. Don't know what colours they'll be wearing, but there's a real opportunity. Joe, I mean, I'll come to you first if I may. You know, how well do you know London is? You know, have I been thorough there? Is there other players that you think, you know what, it's going to be worth keeping an eye on?
No, I think, you know, that's some of the things that you've said is pretty much what I would have said myself. That I think a loss for them is letting Dean Ware go. I think having him in the team would have been good, just to kind of give them the support for Super League. this is a big step up. So for some of these unknowns, I think Alex Walker is a big shout. That's really good. That because he's going to be able to just keep the boat steady and kind of get them through. I believe that Emmanuel is it
Emmanuel Wayne,
the one from Papua.
Yeah.
He's an absolute unit. I've seen him. He has got. He's going to be a wrecking ball. If he gets the chance, hopefully he'll get a good amount of game time.
Greg, I'll bring you in. Again, same question. Anybody else? I mean, that catches your eye?
Yeah, I mean, for quite obvious reasons, I think Rob Butler has got a lot to prove in Super League. I think he came from London to Warrington. Circumstances around the team at the time meant he didn't get a lot of game time. I think he was injured early doors. I thought Rob Butler would have been somebody who would have kind of taken on the mantle of Chris Hill, come through like that from coming down from the Championship into a Super League team, and would have done really well. And I think the fates conspired against him. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I'm really, really hoping that Rob Butler does really well this season, because I don't think he got a fair crack of the whip at Warrington, if I'm being honest. He did come, maybe his fitness wasn't brilliant, and maybe that counted against him. But I hope Rob Butler really does, live up to the potential that he had a few years ago. That's who I hope really comes to him. Also looking forward to seeing Emmanuel Wayne, because he's a beast.
Yeah,
he really is.
Yeah. Well, like I say, Maludi as well. We've seen Maludi twice in Super League. He's been. I think he was at FC. Played 16 times before FC. And also when Toronto came up to Super League, he played for them as well. The other player as well, and I apologise to Bill Leyland there, the hooker. He was the young player of the year in the Championship last year. So again, picking up that award, interesting to see. So no real major surprises here. Everybody's tipping London to finish bottom. I've not seen anybody say they won't finish bottom. The bookies have got them 150 to 1 to win Super League and have put them firm bottom. So let's do it. Greg, where are London going to finish in 2024?
You know what? They've got absolutely nothing to lose.
They've not.
And there are a couple of teams, established Super League teams, who have been struggling over the last few years. A couple of teams that have lost a lot of players, have got financial issues.
Yeah.
In saying that I think they will likely finish bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of teams above them had real scares. Remember Wakefield and Castleford last season. Now, I'm not saying Castleford is going to be that team. I'm just thinking that a couple of teams may be a little bit concerned and may be looking over their shoulders. And it wouldn't be a massive surprise if they didn't finish bottom for me.
Yeah.
But I think they will, simply because it's a huge step up. They haven't, say, recruited like Lee did last season, the season before. Yeah. I think they'll finish bottom, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. Let's put it that way.
Joe, where do you see him?
Yeah, I see them at the bottom, but I do think though it's a great opportunity for the players to chance the hand a little bit and show the teams around them with this new spotlight they're going to have what they can actually do. Yeah. So we might find them being quite nomadic, throwing the ball around. They'll try and chance the hand in many situations, and I think they should. Like we said, they've not recruited for, I'd say, a good Super League side this time round. So, but then on the flip side, if they do find that the teams around the bottom, they're getting a few wins here and there, maybe they need to find out what they're good at and stick with it and try and build on that.
Well, Steph, obviously, Steph will keep telling us in the chat. Steph will be back with us next week. Steph's got him at 11th, so he doesn't see him bottom. There's a few that are saying that 11th in the chat. But I'm with you. I think that over the course of the season, you know what, it is a toss-up. It is a toss-up. We'll get
It is.
I think it is a toss-up because we'll move on. I'm gonna say 12. I'd be interested to see if I'm wrong. Because
It would be very, very interesting if London didn't finish bottom. If they did finish 11th or 10th, what decision would be taken for 2025?
I'm going to take a guess that the people who are watching us live tonight are going to possibly be considering maybe this team as the one that's finishing 12th. Obviously, Craig Lingard, coach Castleford Tigers, newly appointed. Obviously, they've got Maguire as well from Hull KR in the coaching setup. 11th last year, you know, Wakey give him a big scare, if you remember. So, in the same spirit as we did the last one, obviously, because people know these players a little bit more, a little bit less from me on this one. But first things first, I want to start with the retained. And delighted, gentlemen, that I see Jack Broadbent getting the number 3 shirt for this year. Fully deserved. For me, he was their best player last year. Jack Broadbent 3, great shout.
Yeah, agree 100%.
Yeah,
best. Yeah, probably the best one out of that list, I'd say.
Yeah. Obviously, Danny Richardson coming back, massive bonus for him as well. I think they really missed him in 2023.
Yeah.
Danny?
Yeah. He's he does. He can control a game. Can Danny Richardson?
Yeah.
If his forwards give him the space, he can move that team around the pitch. He's a clever player.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, only 3 players above the age of 30. Paul McShane, Liam Watts, and Joe Westerman. They've done a massive job in bringing down the average age of this squad, which, you know, I think, Joel, you were saying before we came on air, it could work for him, but it could go the opposite way because there's a big lack of experience in certain areas of who they brought in. We'll get to that in a minute. But clearly, Craig Lingard wanted to reduce the age of this squad, didn't
he? Yeah, he has done massively as well. Almost a bit too much, I'd say. You look at some of the ones, and I'm sure you'll go into it, that they've lost. Yeah. The strike power is gone.
Well, yeah, we will come on to that. We will come on to that. In fact, let's come on to it now, then. Let's get into it. So, the lost in games, gentlemen. Greg, will start with you. So, you know, you look down that list of who they've lost. The big surprise for me coming into the new season, and especially with the numbers as well that's been given out, Jason Gary must be wondering what the hell's going on, unless he's asked to remain at number 23. Obviously, Greg Eden, injury prone, I get that. Perhaps the right decision to let Greg Eden go based on cap and based on his injuries. But Elliot Wallace was a massive head scratcher. That he scored a couple at the weekend, I believe, Joel, for you guys. I mean, when I saw that Elliot Wallace had gone to Huddersfield, mate, I was a bit surprised at that one. Greg?
Are you, me or Joel?
Yeah, you, mate.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the surprise, as you say, the surprise to me is Greg Eden because that guy knew his way to the try line.
Yeah,
and yeah, his age is against him, injuries are against him, but having that experience when you're bringing in younger players can be a massive boost. But yeah, Elliot Wallace, I think that's a big boost to the Giants. I think Joel probably will agree with me. Hopefully, he does for once.
Yeah. It's huge. It is a breath of fresh air for us. It brings a pace. It brings some quality on the wing, which we wasn't sure whether he's going to do that, and that'll be clear to be seen throughout the rest of the season. I know you don't look at friendlies too much, but he has very much so impressed all the Giants fans. But I'm a bit surprised with Greg Eden. I understand what you're saying with salary cap and things like that, but he was a try scorer, big try scorer, and he still had a lot of
his record, mate, stands up against the best in terms of his strike rate per game. Absolutely unbelievable. So let's look at the gains then. So Luke Cooley, of course, we'll know from Leeds, had a shocker against KR last season, early doors, but actually sort of steadied the ship a little bit. Josh Sim, of course, back is Josh Sim. We've got Sam Wood in from KR in his senior. You'll know him well. And like I say, this bit of the whole back line, 1, 2, 4, 5. You can argue you don't read too much into numbers, but this basically suggests that maybe Jason Gary, who, let's be fair, scored the win. Scored a massive try in Magic Weekend last year. That's a lad who's scored some big tries in his young career at Castleford.
Yeah.
The fact that he's not got one of those numbers, he might have wanted to remain at 23. We don't know, but the entire back line has been changed year on year. I mean, Jordan Turner was at the end of his career. Got no issue with that. That's understandable. Alex Sutcliffe probably still had a bit to give, but Sam. I mean, we're big fans of Sam Wood here on Super League Raw. We thought he was a player at KR. Josh Sim, of course, people will remember him from his Saints days, 19 appearances for Saints, scored 7 tries. He also represented Lee as well in his time as well as FC. So Josh Sim has got pedigree in terms of Super League, but Greg, is that a better back line? Compared to who they've lost, is it stronger? Is it weaker, do you think?
Pace-wise, it's probably better.
Yeah.
Experience-wise, probably not. Niall Evans as well. Niall Evans has gone, and he has huge Super League experience. I would say in that back line there, they've got players judging on past seasons that start slowly and build into the season. Now, I'm not sure that Castleford can afford to accommodate players who start slowly. And when London have got nothing to lose and we'd be throwing everything forward when you've got teams around them, I might be talking out of turn there. I think that pace wise, I think yes, that's a fast back line. Experience wise, maybe with Wood, maybe within his senior. It's kind of, you look at Greg Eden, you look at Jordan Turner, you look at Niall Evans, and yeah, they're probably towards the end of their career, but I don't know. I'm not. It's faster, but it lacks some experience, I would say.
But I mean, Joel will bring you back in. You look at there, Josh Hodgson, who they brought in. He can play wing or centre. Can Josh Hodgson, ex-London, ex-Battler. This is a player who's scored 28 tries in 74 appearances, predominantly at Championship level. And you've let the likes of Niall Evans go. You've let Elliot Wallace go. I mean, you saw him score 2 tries at the weekend against London. That's for me, of all of those comings and goings, would they, in your opinion, have been stronger? Elliot Wallace remaining and the other 4 coming in, Hooley, Sim, Wood and Senior. That's the one for me, is I don't understand why Wallace has been allowed to leave.
It's major. For me, in fact, there's 2, Niall Evans and Elliot Wallace. They're the 2 biggest losses. They want a younger squad, but they've let a young lad go who's got some real talent.
Yeah.
When you look at, if you was to put the losses and the gains on a weighing scale, the losses are unfortunately going to weigh heavier than the gains, because when you look at them, the only one that kind of makes me think, wow, that's a good sign is Sam Wood. And then,
yeah, we like Woody. I
Yeah.
think he's
Luke Cooley's okay, but again, he's a slow starter, as is Sam Wood.
Yeah, but is he a good Super League player though? That we don't really know this yet.
Yeah.
But for me, is Sam Wood going to cut it? When
question.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, but we will see. We then go into the halfbacks, and no surprise. Well, the biggest surprise was that Gareth Widdop is going to be lining up in the Championship, having retired. That came from nowhere. Yeah. Of course, Jacob Hookham. I mean, a lot of people raved about Jacob Hookham a couple of seasons back. Said he got a big future at Castleford. He's of course been allowed to go, but of course, in comes a player who, again, from the outside looking in, we admire here at Super League Raw, which of course is that man there, Rowan Milnes. He's a direct replacement for Gareth Widdop. We know that. Here's their head-to-head. Massive difference in age, of course. Very, very similar. But if you look at 11 appearances to 21 last season, he didn't really get a shot Rowan Milnes last year. Obviously, he was
No.
playing second fiddle to Lewis and Abdul early doors. Then, of course, Schneider came in. But in the 11 appearances he played in, 1 try, assists 7 to 10. Would have played 10 more games than Milnes last season. 7 assists to 10. He's not really a tackle. That's not really his game. Tackle, busts, and clean breaks. To be fair, pretty similar after that. I think this is a good sign, and I think Danny Richardson. We know bit injury. He's had his injury problems, but is it fair to say that they're stronger in the halfbacks going into this season? Would that be fair comment?
Yeah, because Widdop's gone. I think he probably dragged them down, if anything, really.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a season.
Good evening, Gareth, if you're watching.
Does he watch? I thought Widdop was absolutely fantastic last season. I won't have anything said against him. I think last season was probably, if not the season before, was maybe a season too far for Gareth Widdop.
Yeah.
It's a shame because he's been an absolutely fantastic player, and he didn't. Again, he's another player that didn't get the chance to show Super League what he could do because of injuries and whatever else. But yeah, I think Rowan Milnes is a good addition. I really do. He's a clever player, and I think he'll slot in there. I think he's probably a better foil for Jacob Miller than Danny Richardson.
I think the good thing for Cass fans,
Richardson and Miller are a little bit similar sometimes.
I think the good thing for Cass fans is the genuine competition there, and there's genuine competition for those 2 starting spots there. Obviously Jordan Johnson allowed to live. Then we go into the props. I mean, you look down that list. Nathan Massey, Mataji, etc. I can understand why they've been allowed to leave. But then these lads that are coming in, I think, both back rowers and props. I mean, they lost Kenny Edwards. We were big admirers of Kenny Edwards here. But in terms of their forward line, who they've lost, who they've brought in, I think it's a massive gamble. Massive, massive gamble. It could be a genius gamble. It could absolutely bite them on the backside. You look at who we're going to go to first. Let's do the props first. So Namo, only 23, young man, Papua New Guinea international. But he's untried. He's never played NRL. He's never played Super League. You then look at Kabula. Again, 24, prop. XY or ex-Wigan. Of course, he's played for. And this again at 24, Warrington, Wigan, Swinton, London Scholars, Dewsbury, Bradford, Oldham, Newcastle, Batley. At 24, that's a lot of teams to have played for. It's not worked for him at any of those clubs. Big gamble. We know Lewis Johnson from his Warrington and Kayade never really managed to lay down a marker. We then go to the second row, El Zakim, Lebanon international. Let's not say anything. Look at Miska. It's going to be interesting. Lebanon international. Second row again. Never played NRL. Never played Super League. And then finally, you've got Nixon Putt. 27 again. Another Papua New Guinea international. Second rower. Never played a game in Super League. Never played a game in the NRL. That's why I'm saying it's a massive gamble. While the age profile's right, some of those lads are big units, but the ones that we know of, Kibula, Johnson, they've never ever really set the world on fire anywhere where they've been. And the others that they brought in have no real experience of the 2 major competitions in the world, the NRL and Super League. And this is where I think a lot of people, when they get into the detail, might give London a shot. If these lads, especially the forwards, these lads don't hit the ground running, because Watson getting any younger. He's not. Neither is Weston. They need a bit. This could bite them. It really could. What's your thoughts on this lot?
The props, the forwards that they've retained are solid Super League forwards.
Correct. Yeah.
And this is why I said I think London will finish bottom, but would not be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah.
Because I think it's kind of it's when you've got your fantasy football team and you've got a few quid extra that you need to spend, and then you and no disrespect to these players by any stretch of the imagination, but they're bringing in, like you say, players that are untried, or are tried and tested and haven't quite cut it. Although I will say, I think, not because he shares my surname, but Nixon Putt was a decent player in the World Cup, and I think he could very well be one of the surprises of the season. Nixon Putt, I think if he plays like he did in the World Cup, and he put in some outstanding performances in the World Cup, he scored a few tries.
Yeah.
I think he could very well be, one of the standout performers, and he could very well be the one that makes a difference in the back row. If he's given the chance. But it is the player that the props have brought in versus the props that have gone. It's not really like for like as far as I'm concerned.
Especially if they pick up some big injuries in terms of of Watts, Lawler, Griffin, Rete. I mean that could really be hindrance to them. Joel, your thoughts on Castleford, mate? And once you finish with that, where do you think they'll finish, Joel?
I think if you were to ask me who's Castleford's best signing, it's Craig Lingard. I think he's got an opportunity to show that a team that's not really got any hopes for going much higher than the bottom three, as we see it.
Yeah.
If he can get them to work together, there could be something in that team there. I don't see it. You look at your props, Liam Watts, Lawler, Vetty. They're not young. They're not young lads. They're seasoned. They're going to do a job for you, but are they going to be injury prone?
Yeah.
Probably. And other than Johnson, who I'm not enamoured with, I don't see what they're really going to bring. Who are they going to learn from, really? So, can Craig Lingard put a team together? Hopefully. But I'm going to stick with the last year's placement of 11th.
Fair enough. Greg, where are they going to finish?
I think 11th.
You think 11th?
But I think a lot of those people on the chat who say that London will finish 11th, I think Castleford will be looking over their shoulder for most of the season.
Yeah.
I will go for 11th, but I will not be surprised if they finish 12th. Let's say that.
It's gonna be interesting, and of course they're just. I mean, very very. We didn't do that. My apologies. I forgot to do this for London. London have got a torrid first 6 games.
Yeah,
They go to Saints away, Catalan at home, FC away, Wigan at home, Wire at home, Huddersfield at home. I mean,
it's almost like it's planned, isn't it?
Welcome to Super League London.
Yeah.
As for Castleford, again, a difficult start for Castleford. Wigan at home first. Then they go to Salford away, which, we'll get to Salford next week. They might not be, they probably might fancy that one. Warrington away, Huddersfield at home, then Catalan away, and then Leeds at home. So again, really tricky fixtures for Castleford to start the season. What we will say in completion, I myself see him as 11th as well. Make sure you get down to the Jungle this weekend. Of course, it's the Paul McShane testimonial versus Huddersfield. I think any neutral would agree. Paul McShane has been a great servant to the game of rugby league, and fully deserves to have a really good crowd at the Jungle to celebrate his testimonial. So please do get out there if you can and support Paul McShane. Right, we move now to the team that finished 10th last season, Hull FC. Again, another testimonial to just quickly announce on this one. Of course, it's the Scott Taylor testimonial this weekend against Wigan. Again, another great servant to this game, Scott Taylor. Make sure that you get out and support Scott. Right, let's summarise this then. Retained. A lot of names here that you know in the Hull FC ranks. Tex Hoy needs a big season. I'm just going to start there. Tex Hoy, for me, flattered to deceive last year. Would you agree, Greg?
He was disappointing last season, yeah. He came with a huge fanfare, and in flashes, was very, very good. First couple of games of the season was very, very good. I think, being fair to him, he took quite a serious knock, which seemed to affect his game. But yeah, I'm hoping that he can show what he can do this season. Texoy.
Fair enough. Joel, would you agree with the sentiment? Texoy needs to be better.
Yeah, I feel for him though. He's only a great player when he's around a great team. So yeah, let's hope that he has a better season, because he came with all the promise and there was nothing.
No, and for me, I put Davy Litton at fullback before I put Texoy at fullback. Personally, I think Davy Litton last season was grew into the season wonderfully. Really,
Yeah.
really good. Timavare, we know, class, but Father Time is ticking. I thought Liam Sutcliffe, superb. Darnell McIntosh, of course, as well. Thought Scott, when he was in and out, was good. Veliki Kapani, there you go, I got it out.
That was your Asatazi moment, mate.
It was indeed. Halfbacks, I think we'd all hope that Jake Truman remains injury-free. Box office Jake Truman really was getting into his groove last year before that injury took him out of the season. So we wish Jake well. Danny Houghton, of course, getting the captaincy. Good shout as far as that's concerned. We're going to get to the props in a minute, but you can, the likes of Brown, Garner, Starbley there, they're not going to pull quite many people, but we'll get to the incomings in a minute. I think one of the things that I would say to you both is that, Greg, we've been doing this now for quite a few years. A couple of years back, we were talking about the plethora of fullbacks that we had in the league. I think a few seasons before that, we were talking about the hookers that we had in the league. That, we had real good quality hookers. I have to say, the back rows of Super League teams this season. I mean, it's not the glamour positions, but actually, if you look at the back rowers that are in these squads this year, wow!
The engine, the back row is the engine room.
Yeah,
that's the engine room. That's the bit that stands back and dictates.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We've got some great back rowers in Super League this season.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, they just fall off. I mean, Sal, Fash, Brad Fash, the mullet to be feared. Cater, Lane, again, you hope that those two have good seasons. And of course, Zach Jepson and Charlie Severs.
Well, we need an injury-free season to their players. People say that Hull flatter to deceive, but over the last 4 or 5 years, the injuries they've had to players that have been coming through, they've had more than the fair share of injuries. They've been really, really unlucky with, and at key times of the season as well.
Yeah. No,
the young players coming through, it's been unfair, really.
It has been unfair, mate. It has been unfair.
Didn't Sal get a bit of an injury scare though? One he injured a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have had. I mean, obviously, Kate Lane, they've had their injury problems over the years, and you're right, mate. There's some of these players who need a proper. Truman, obviously, another one. They need a season where they're injury free. There's no doubt about that. We need a good Hull FC.
They just seem Hull FC for the last 4 or 5 seasons just seem to have been getting going, getting momentum, and then they've had 1 or 2 injuries to key players. And it's derailed the season. And the fans must be, they must wonder which black cat they ran over on the way into work.
Yeah. Right, Joe. I'll start with you, mate. Let's look at the lost and gained. And so, in terms of course, good pro over the years. Called time in his career, of course. Connor Wynn and Adam Swift, who of course has come to you, replaced by Jack Walker, who we saw in dispatches last year. And Liam Tyndall, who's got the number 2 shirt. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that Tyndall would, if they go with Hoy at fullback, would be behind Davy Litton. I'd be very, very surprised if he wasn't. But from your perspective, looking at this, stronger or weaker in the back line, the lost and gained?
I would say, had they kept Swifty, it would have been much stronger.
Yeah,
because they'd have bolstered to it. I don't think there actually is a gain or a loss here. I think it's a bit of a stalemate, to be honest with you, because the recruitment's good, but the retention wasn't great either.
Well, they've retained a lot of the backs. They have retained a lot of the backs. Greg, would you say they've strengthened or weakened in the backs?
I'd kind of go with Joel on this. I think it's kind of a muchness.
Fair
if
enough.
I'm being honest, I think if they'd kept Adam Swift, I think you're right. I mean, that guy can move. I think it's much of a muchness. If I'm being honest,
He's got all their tries, didn't he? He's got everything for him.
Yeah.
Right,
much of a muchness.
We'll move on to halfbacks. Obviously, Jake Clifford was quality, I think, for probably 2/3 of the season. I think once he announced he was heading back to the RL, I saw a big drop off there. Joe Lovadua, on his day, could be pretty unpredictable, to be fair. But he's moved on. Ben McNamara also, of course, moved on.
Yeah.
In to replace them, Morgan Smith, who had glimpses last year for Wakefield Trinity, and of course Fernando Brown, a new player here coming into Super League. Here he is. Here's the lad, 29 years of age. 6 foot. He's a big lad. 56 NRL appearances in his time. Played for Cronulla, Canterbury, West Tigers, and Newcastle. 11 tries. Of course, people will remember him from his stint at Featherstone in 2021. When he played 25 times, scored 16 tries and kicked 12 goals. And of course, he's represented Samoa and New Zealand at international level. That's Fernando Brown. I mean, it's fair to say when you look at the halfbacks, he needs to hit the ground running. I mean, it's fair to say in his short tenure that Jake Clifford became a little bit of a fan's favourite at the MKM Stadium. There's going to be a lot of pressure on that number 7. And if Jake Truman was to, God forbid, have his injury concerns again in 2024, is there enough in that half-back? We just saw a few moments ago the likes of Miller, Richardson and Milnes at Castleford.
Yeah.
What's our thoughts around the half-backs at Hull?
I quite like it. I think it's actually good. I think Brown and Truman, that's going to be, I think that'll be a great partnership if it hits off. Fernando Brown's actually probably the one I'm probably the most interested about to see how he goes, because his NRL experience is vast.
As Joel says, if Brown, and as you said, if Brown can hit the ground running, if they can get a partnership going early doors, that's quite exciting for Hull fans.
Yeah.
Again, Truman's got to stay injury free. Is Morgan Smith the guy that will he gel with Brown? We don't know, do we? But I think it's something to be excited about, providing that they can hit it off and provided they can work together, and Brown hits the ground running straight away.
Yeah.
But if he does,
that's huge.
That's quite an exciting partnership.
It is. They need to keep. I think for Hull FC, I think for Hull FC to hit playoffs this year, which is a big ask. I think that's a big ask. But if they were, it's going to be dependent on 7 and 6 playing. Pretty much every game. I think if they suffer, if either of them, well, one we need Brown hitting the ground running in the transition to be right. But I think if either of them were to miss large periods of the season, I think that's going to really hinder their opportunities of getting into the playoffs. Obviously, Brad Dwyer's gone off to Warrington. Then we come into the props. I think this is fascinating. The props, really, really fascinating. Him and Assisi. A lot of clubs were interested in Assisi. 29-year-old Samoan and New Zealand international. 129 NRL appearances. He's represented the Bulldogs, the Broncos, the Knights, the Titans, and the Dolphins. So he's been around. He's a big unit. And like I say, a lot of people were interested in him. Franklin Pelly, he had a really good game, I'm led to believe, in the warm-up game. He's man of the match, actually. Again, huge. I believe a lot of talk that he's doing extra training to make sure that he's match fit going into the game. But again, 23 years of age, this lad. This lad, if he's the real deal at 23, this could be a name that that last long in the memory. And then, of course, in the back row, I mean, Jack Ashworth has been brought in as well. Mustn't forget Jack Ashworth. And then Jaden Okunbor, I'm presuming that's the. Forgive me if I've got that right or wrong.
Wrong.
Or wrong. But again, second rower, only 26, NRL experience with the Bulldogs. He's a New South Wales Cup winner in 2018. 6'5", 17 stone second rower. And when he's fit, I'm led to believe he's a meter making machine. So in the spirit of what I was saying about Castleford a minute ago, unknown quantities, in a CC Pele and Okunbor, it's the opposite. These have got a bit of pedigree behind them. Big unit. And let's be fair, we're massive fans of Tony Smith. He very seldom, last year was about temperature and getting players in and out. These are his players. He very seldom gets it wrong, Tony Smith. It's quite I think you talked about Brown being exciting for him, Joel. They've lost Chris Satai. Taylor, of course, has retired. Savelio's gone. Is it fair to say that what has come in, age profile, the rest of it, that they've strengthened in the forward line?
Massively. If you look at your three props, you would automatically, due to game time, put Jack Ashworth as down as being like just a okay signing. But I'm telling you, if he gets game time, he is going to be brilliant. He'll be a great replacement for Chris Satai, because I was gutted that Jack went, because he is massive. He's a unit. And he runs quick, he runs hard, he gives 110% every time. It's a shame he didn't get game time at Huddersfield, but I think he's a great signing. Franklin Pilley.
Well, he'll get game time this year, mate, won't he?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. As long as he can stay injury-free, he'll be getting it, yeah, for sure. And then Pilley as well, another great signing. He's going to be a great addition there. I'd say for Scott Taylor, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg? The big unit, I agree. All of them are big units, mate.
Mate, if Truman and Brown can combine and can make this, and these guys can make the space, they're going to cause some trouble, Hull, this season. Again, players staying fit. These guys, this Okunbor, he's a big guy. If he stays fit, he can scatter some players. He's another one I'm looking forward to seeing play. I really am. I think he could be an absolute star. He really could. He's got the potential to be an absolute star. But Chris Satai, we like Chris Satai here. He was a great player, and Scott Taylor's been a great professional. But I think in those three props that they brought in, they are great additions to this squad. Really great additions.
Well, the bookies see him as 8th, 18-1. Gary Schofield as well. I think he's gone 8th for. He's gone 8th for Hull FC. The starting 6 fixtures for Hull FC. KR, of course, mouth-watering at home on 16th of Feb. Then Warrington away, then London at home, Catalan away, Lee at home, and then KR away. They're playing KR twice in the first 6 rounds. I actually agree. I actually think Hull will improve on their 10th showing last season. I think 8th for Hull. What's your thoughts, Greg?
I think, again, a lot depends on injuries with Hull. They've been really, really unlucky with injuries over the last 4 or 5 years. I think they'll finish above 10th. I'm going to, if that pack fires, those halves fires, I can see them threatening the top 6. But I'm going to put them at 7th.
You're putting them a place higher than me, 7th.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Joel?
I'm going to go 8th. And I'm only seeing 8th and not a bit higher due to the fact that we don't know for sure how these partnerships are going to work and how the spine look. If the spine clicks and the back rows and the props do their jobs, we may see Hull back in the playoffs. But that is an outside chance, and they all have to fire on all cylinders.
Yeah,
but I'm
I agree.
gonna put them at 8 because they're definitely going to go better this year for sure.
I think Joel, if that squad and Davey, that squad stays together for 2 or 3 years, I think there could be a real threat.
Yeah,
with a couple of additions.
Fair enough.
But I reckon.
Fair
What did I
enough.
say? 7th. I reckon
You said 7th. Yeah. Okay, and we'll get Steph's in the chat. Right, we're gonna have to move. We'll be going for a while here tonight. That delay didn't help us. Right. Okay, we go to Huddersfield. Ian Watson says they're ahead of where they were this time last year. Oh dear. Yeah, I think Joel, you're going to have free reign in a minute. Obviously, before we get to Joel, Greg, I think me and you would say that Watson has to hit the ground running, or surely he could be one of the biggest tips for the early casualty in the coaching role if this doesn't go right.
Yeah, no disrespect. I think Ian Watson is a great coach.
Yeah.
But I think, and probably Joel will know better than we do, but I think probably he's maybe skirted with losing his job over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Maybe, it's been in the back of his mind, and maybe Huddersfield have thought we'll give him a bit of time. Yeah, he has to. He's got to prove himself this year. Because
I think so.
Well, we'll go to Joel about the team, but I think he has to improve this year. They have to do better this year. They have to put the performances in. They've not done nearly good enough over the last couple of seasons, and I think Joel will probably agree with us on that one.
Joel?
Sure. Yeah. Last season we were tipped to be quite high. I know myself. I
tipped you. Yeah, I tipped you top 6.
Yeah, well, it was one of the first times in a very long time I tipped my own team to be top 3, and I genuinely have not done that in a very long time. We on paper had probably one of the best squads we've ever had, and we may have on paper had one of the best squads in the league. I go as far to say, but clearly it didn't work and it wasn't good. This year it's the opposite. I've kind of tipped ourselves to be quite low, but after seeing what I've seen from some of the players in the pre-season friendlies, I'm not talking about the scores, I'm just talking about how they've played, the performances. I'm a bit more optimistic than I was, so I've put ourselves a little bit higher than what I did last week.
Are you going to tell us where you think you'll finish then?
Yeah, so I've got us in 8th.
You can't have you in 8th. You've just given us Hull in 8th.
Did I?
Yeah.
Sorry, no. Sorry, 7th. Sorry, 7th.
7th. So you're going 7th.
Yes.
Which would be an improvement of 2 places on last season.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I said 8th because I had Hull in 10th, but I wanted to put Hull up another place up because I think Salford will finish a bit lower, but I know that's for another time. But yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I've got us in 8th.
So you got us in 8th. So you're going what? You're going Hull 9th?
Sorry, 7th.
7th. You're going 7th, right? Okay, right. Okay. I mean, look,
I mixed it all up last minute.
It's nearly bedtime, mate.
It is nearly bedtime. Look, we retained as a who's who. I mean, Connor, Masters, and Agama. I mean, obviously, Father Time is ticking on Agama. Bibby, Ash Goulding, who I hope he stays fit. I like Ash Goulding. I think he's really good for the game. Speaks well as well. Speaks well as Ash Goulding. Lola Haya goes without saying. Ollie Russell's a quality player as well. Good kicking game when he's on. Adam Milner, of course, 9. Interested to see how much game time Kieran Rush gets. Probably not a lot when we get to the gains. Again, the props. Chris Hill, Father Time again. Great player, great career, but it's another year on for Chris Hill. But again, you look down that list. I mean, a big blow losing Owen Trout. We'll get to that in a minute. But again, big prop forwards. Retained a lot of them. Back row again. You look at that. Hewitt, Yates, Rushton. I like Harry Rushton. Cudjoe. Good pro for Huddersfield over the years. Livette, hopefully injury free. Sam also. They've got, in terms of depth of squad, while some of those players would never get into a Wigan Saints team. I'll just say it as it is. In terms of a depth of squad, they can pretty much soak up some injuries. Can Huddersfield with that squad and not really have a massive detriment. I mean, there's a few key players in there that they did miss, but especially in the props and the back row, some real versatility in there. But let's get into lost and gained. Joel, I'll let you, as it's your team, you can take the lead on these. So, Will Price gone, Jermaine McGilvery gone, in his senior gone, replaced by Swift and Wallace. As much as you've got, and rightly so, a lot of respect, as we all have for Jermaine McGilvery. Improved, would you say?
I would, and I say it with a very heavy heart because, as you know, McGilvery, I've always viewed him as one of our stalwarts, one of our best players we've probably ever had, certainly on in a wing position. But he'd say himself, he's coming towards the end of his career, of his age. So I wouldn't have got rid of him, but I'd have certainly maybe had him in less games, and rotated a bit more. I'd probably say. I'm going to be honest. I'm happy that Senior's gone.
Yeah.
I make no bones about that. Will Price, he was a talent, but he wanted to go. So he was.
Yeah.
There's no point trying to keep someone who doesn't necessarily want to be there. But having Wallace and Swift come in, I would say that is a major improvement. We've really struggled on the outside backs.
Well, I mean, this graphic here tells the story a little bit in terms of Adam Swift. I mean, obviously there's a 5-year age difference to begin with, but look at the tries last year. I mean, he went on, I think it was something like a 7 or 8 game try scoring run that was simply sensational. But yeah, 19 tries, 2 assists. You look at it meters, obviously 24 appearances, played 13. But Swift is the real deal, mate. He really is. And if you can get, and he scored 3 at the weekend. If Adam Swift brings his second half of the season form to Huddersfield, as great a servant as Jermaine McGilvery has been, and he has been an incredible servant, there's no arguing. It's a massive, massive plus. Massive plus.
Yeah. If 5 years ago you'd have put Jermaine McGilvery 5 years ago up against the Swift of today, you'd be picking Jermaine.
Yeah.
All day long, I think. But I think that is a great bit of transfer business there. Swap over.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So, yeah, better in the backs. Now we'll go to the half backs. Theo Farge didn't fire for Huddersfield. I mean, we'll get to Catalan in 2 weeks' time, but if ever there was a player that needs a big season, it's Theo Farge at Catalan, because since he's come to you from Saints, I think he's flattered to deceive a little bit, well below his personal standards. Adam Clune, of course, his replacement, 28, 47 NRL appearances for St George and Newcastle. Thoughts on him, Joe?
Adam Clune is a great organiser. So he's going to really fill them shoes well. It's a shame because Theo, he played most of his best games when he wasn't on TV. When he played, should I say, his kicking game in field was brilliant. That's never lost. He's just too injury prone. If I had the option of having a good player who's going to play every game of the season, as opposed to the best player in the world who's going to play half the season, I'd pick the good player, because consistency is key in today's Super League. So Adam Clune is a great replacement, and his organisational skills, they're going to be second to none.
Fair enough. Greg, improved in the halves, would you say, with Clune?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
I think the backs. I think the backs a lot more pace in Swift and Wallace. Adam Clune, as Joel says, can organise, can lead a team around the park.
Yeah,
I think where you might struggle, and you may disagree with me here, Joel, but I think you may struggle in the pack. You've lost some big players there in the pack. you probably know more than I do. Savalio is a great player on his day. But, you've got Chris McQueen, Josh Jones, who've gone.
The big one's Trout, mate.
Yeah, Trout.
The big one's Trout.
Yeah.
That was a big blow, losing Trout.
Yeah. So I don't know, Joel. I mean, where do you think in the pack? You've got some good forwards there, but you've got some aging forwards.
Yeah, but then again, you've got the likes of Hugo Slabio. If he can, let's just ignore the tackle. Let's ignore the tackle. He was, he's a good prop, and he's got a bit of speed to say he's such a big human being. And then you've got the likes of Jack Murchie. All right, he might not be as physically as big as some that we've had, but what he does bring is pace and power, and he's a try scorer, which is good. So for me, he would be a good replacement for your Josh Joneses and your, I'd say your Chris McQueens.
Yeah, he's not got the size, though, has he, of a McQueen or a Jones?
No, but you look at McQueen wasn't the biggest of back rowers, but the pace he ran at, it was blistering, and he could break tackles, and I think that's what Jack Murchie brings.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. I think it's from the outside. I agree with you over Salabio. I think I saw enough of him last season to think that that could actually be a very astute signing. Salabio.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, time will tell on that. But I do think
then come later on in the season when Savilio's back from injury, and if he can stay injury free, it might be a great fresh bit of player for us when the older ones start to flag a little bit. So it might be a blessing in disguise for us.
Yeah. It might be. It might be.
I mean, that's the one thing with Savalio. He's an absolutely super. I've got a lot of time for Savalio, but he does tend to get injured a lot.
Yeah, and time's ticking with him. I mean, it's one of them, and it's going to be interesting. And I think for me, my concern, if I have a concern, is it is. I mean, they brought in a bit of youth. Don't get me wrong, but you look down that list. There's a bit of age in there now as well. For Huddersfield going into the new year, we bigged them up last year. We got bitten on that. I think both myself and Greg put them high last year.
Yeah. I had them top 6 last season.
Easily in the top 6. I think I put me. I think I might have even put them top 4, maybe in top 3. I can't remember. And they just caught us completely by surprise. They just didn't. They didn't flourish. First 6 from Lee away, tough start. Great game though. That's the one I'm watching. I'm not watching the Salford Leeds game. That's the game I'm watching. St Helens at home, then Wigan away. 3 really tough starting games. Then they go to Cass. Then they're at home to KR before going to London away. I'll be honest with you, mate. I'm putting you 9th, and I can't believe I'm doing that. But based on what happened last year, based on the brand of rugby we know that Watson plays, and I get your point of what's happened in the 2 warm-up games, but is he going to play that style against?
So just to put you in the picture a little bit. So as an example, and Jake Connor, he's lost 14 kilos compared to last season.
Yeah.
Tuilola here has also, I believe, has lost at least 10 kilos. These are 2 guys that have dropped some massive weight, and they are now a lot fitter than what they were last season. And we've added pace to the pack. Well, we've added pace all around everywhere. So for me, that's what the one thing we've been lacking for a few years is proper out and out pace.
I get that, mate. My concern is though, throughout last season, and I'll throw Price in the mix last season. Of course, now you've got Clune coming in. At no point last year did I see a spine that was playing for the team. I saw the likes of Connor, Lollahea, Price, these players last year, I thought, from the outside looking in, they just wasn't gelling. It was like they wanted their own ball at times. It just wasn't. It was like they were trying to outdo each other as opposed to trying to play the team game. And forgive me if I'm wrong when I say that. That's what I felt when I watched them last year. They just wasn't knitted together. And and it's for that reason. Do I think, dare I say it, are the team behind Watson? I don't know. I'm not close enough to Huddersfield, but we've seen this at Warrington with Darryl Powell. We've seen it in different, we'll talk about Leeds next week with Rowan Smith. We've seen this a lot where, those players they will know that Watson's under pressure this season. And do you know what? If they're a few games in, be interesting. It will be very interesting to see what goes on.
It's like you say, though, if the players hadn't been behind Watson, maybe they'd gone sooner. Because it's quite clear from Warrington last season that they were not buying into the Darryl Powell project.
No. Yeah. And there's shades of that at Huddersfield, mate, wasn't there, with Watson?
There was, but he kind of turned it round.
We've got the two perfect opening games to prove, that this is the Ian Watson side that he wants. If we go again like we did last year, it may be the final season for him.
I think so.
I don't think
I've not said that up till present, but I think this is now the make or break season. Not last year, this year.
I agree.
I don't think I'll see the end of the season, mate. I think if we get to the mid season, and dare I say it, my prediction's right that you're in and around 9th or 8th. I don't think that's going to be good enough.
Well, I've gone for 8th. I've gone for 8th for Huddersfield. Yeah.
So you've actually put them. So you're like me in the fact that you think Hull FC will leapfrog Huddersfield this year.
Yeah, I've gone Hull 7, Tony Smith factor.
Right.
Sorry, Joel.
Fair enough.
Huddersfield
and
8.
Of course,
Cass and London are going to be in one of. I've got another team.
We'll get to that one. We'll get to that one next week. But interesting. Joel, as somebody who's been a part of Super League Raw now for a year and a bit, I hope I'm wrong. You deserve to have a smile on your face, mate. This season, you've gone through a few. Certainly last year, a tough old year, as did we. So nothing to give me greater pleasure to be wrong. But like I say, I've just got this nag. I've just got this nag in me, mate. That
I think this team, like Hull, probably needs another season with a couple of additions next season.
Yeah,
because the back, you've got quite a decent back line. I think you need to kind of like start now replenishing your forwards.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Castleford proved us wrong last year. Lee proved us semi-wrong last year, so we'll see.
We need somebody who's going to replace Chris Hill.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? Well, actually, we're hoping that Chris Hill is going to be a upcoming in conversation. Let's hope that happens. That'll be an interesting in conversation. But it's been a long one tonight because, of course, we had that big section at the start about what we've not seen over winter. We had a bit of a delayed start. Obviously, we had to go through rule changes and other things. That won't be the case next week. We won't have as much news to get through. That always happens in the first.
We might do. We might
never know. But Super League Raw is back. Yes, a couple of teething problems. We'll get rid of those. But all in all, it's great to be back. Tuesday nights has just got a whole lot better, like we said. Steph Sale will be back with us next week. He'll be casting his eye over the Lee Leopards and Leeds Rhinos, Salford and Warrington. They're the 4 teams next week, that we cast our eye over, and any news in the interim that comes up. But gentlemen, we're going to bring this to a close. Joel, lovely to see you, mate. We'll be seeing plenty of you over the course of the season. Greg, we're back.
We're back. A pleasure to see you, Joel.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah.
Take care of yourself, mate.
So yeah, make sure you catch In Conversation tomorrow. But from myself, from Greg, from Joel, thanks very much indeed for watching. We'll be back next week. And